Hi, welcome to Mom on the Right. I'm going to tell you it's very exciting today because Jerome Hudson from Breitbart and the author of 50 Things They Don't Want You to Know. And girls, guys, let me tell you, you know what's going on with this impeachment inquiry and everything else going on. But Mr. Hudson's going to show and tell us about what the left's been doing, the lies we believe. Where do you begin, Jerome?
Yeah.
I know we're cut for time. Can you just tell me what enlightened you to come to this point?
Sure. No. As a Black man who happens to be conservative, I've always thought and marveled for a long time why there aren't more free thinkers like me. And writing the book, I think I realized why. I think anybody who's paying any attention to the current drumbeat of impeachment over what amounts to basically nothing can attest to the fact that the left, that is the establishment media, that is the out-of-touch politicians in Washington, D.C., have created a sort of thick web of lies. And what I try to do in the book is address 50 of the most critical issues, and I just pack them full of facts that you won't hear from the media or the political left.
No, thank you. And I don't have a copy of the book. I read what I could online, and I love what you're talking about. Especially you talked about, about the shootings and how they've been in gun-free areas, zones, gun-free zones. So can you tell me a couple of the things that you can share with us without giving us too much, because we want people to buy the book.
Sure. No. For years, Dr. John Lott has compiled data and research, which is basically based on the FBI's information center. And in the chapter, I write that since 1950, so 78 years between 1950 and May of 2018, over 97% of mass shootings have occurred in gun-free zones. And it's really the sort of thing that would make anyone sort of pause and think, why would we ever listen to or trust Democrats who are basically at this point trying to disarm people, when the reality is that an advertised area in which you're telling someone who is willing to break the law and is even willing to go so far as to commit a heinous act like just mass murder, it's the number one target for somebody who is willing to commit such grave evil. And so again, the chapter sort of goes on to explain that, a majority of people who arm themselves do it to protect themselves and their families. There are hundreds of thousands of instances every year in which people have to use a firearm to protect themselves. Right. And that was a study commissioned by Barack Obama's administration.
Which is probably surprising to many people on the left, or they just choose to ignore it. No, thank you for that. And another thing has been really the climate, global warming and all that. That's another thing that's been, you talk about that in your book. You hit on all this stuff. And I appreciate, because I got this poor kid. This kid is being used as a puppet by the left.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on a little bit on that?
Sure. No, it is a critical issue. And,
I agree.
I was writing the chapter about how since 1992, the United States has led the world in reducing our carbon emissions. And I was writing this stuff a year ago almost, before Greta Thunberg, the Swedish 16-year-old Nobel Peace nominee, came to America and started preaching to us. Look, the facts are, in this young century, the United States, we've hit a new low in carbon emissions 9 times in basically 19 years.
Right.
But that's something that even your local paper wouldn't tell you, let alone the left-wing media. But Democrats want to basically tax the hell out of the country. And they have no plan to address China or India or Russia, which account for more than 50% of the carbon emissions in the world. I also dedicated an entire chapter to the fact that 90% of plastic waste comes from Asia and Africa. And yet you have Democrats wanting and pushing the advancement of abolishing all plastic straws, when plastic straws from the United States account for less than 0.03% of the plastic pollution.
Right. That, I didn't know that. And, people need to do their own research and stop listening to these talking heads, including me. But we're gonna put a link toward, where people can buy and look into this in the book. Guys, I want you to really read this. Another thing, of course, I used to be a Democrat, and it just, it's not my mother's Democratic Party way it used to be. Now, what are our challenges with this far left, like AOC and so forth? She's actually, I think, behind a lot of this with Nancy Pelosi. What are your thoughts on that? And this is just conjecture right now.
Oh, sure. No. Again, I think Pew basically puts out a study, and I sort of allude to this in the introduction to the book.
Okay.
In the last study they put out a few months ago, basically 7 in 10 Americans don't trust that their elected officials are telling them the whole truth. And so in the book, and actually in the carbon emissions chapter, I talk about how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the face. She is the driving force behind the Green New Deal, which again will raise taxes by $16 trillion, while she's prancing around pushing for the explosion of the American economy to basically do nothing in terms of lowering our carbon emissions. She's racking up tens of thousands of dollars in bills by riding around in gas guzzling cars as she campaigns for her Green New Deal. I think that's the key. I think sharp, pointed hypocrisy always wins the day. I mean, politicians are out of touch. And like I said, opinion polls reflect that. But I wrote the book to arm people with the facts that they can actually win the ideological debates.
No, thank you. And finally, it's where do we go from here as a country? I mean, I just feel like we've been dealing with this since Trump has been elected, his election 2016. It's been a nightmare. So we're gonna have another year of this with possible impeachment per se. We don't know yet at this point. Like you said, it's very, very thin. Where do we go as a country from your standpoint?
I think we're moving in the right direction. Pew also says that 6 in 10 Americans don't trust that the media is telling them the entire truth. And in many ways, again, that's why I wrote the book, to give people the entire truth. The election of Donald Trump obviously wasn't an accident. I mean, the man ran, he made third rail issues a central point of his campaign, but there were millions of people who finally believed that there was a person who wasn't a career politician, who was speaking to issues that they cared about. And in many ways, I mean, Donald Trump was just saying a lot of the things that I wrote about and compiled data to prove in this book. So, I mean, to answer your question, the economy is booming. I mean, there is a blue collar boom that's happening. Again, the media won't report this, and sadly, they seem to be drumming up, fears of a coming recession. But those people live in an alternate reality, and I have to believe that the majority of Americans are hip to their game and are starting to tune them out.
No, thank you so much. I mean, you guys have to check this book out. It's 50 Things They Don't Want You to Know.
It's available everywhere as a nationwide release. So everywhere between your local bookstore to Books A Million and, of course, Amazon.
All right, guys, you hear that? And we're going to also put it in the article, and we're going to make sure we got to get the word out. Jerome, we thank you. We look forward to a follow-up on this book, because I'm sure there's going to be another 50.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.